Celiwe Mabaso. You're tuned into the NepoXchange Podcast. Young people must read. Young people must read. I think, listening to the opinions and views of others from podcasts and videos and everything else that we consume is great. But read.
Absolutely.
Read. I graduated with a BCom Marketing Management, and my dream at the time was to work in advertising. So I thought I'd work in advertising. But life wasn't rosy at the time, and my first job was in operations. I co-create a program with the community, and the program belongs to the community.
And they run with it.
And they run with it, and they co-design it, and they determine what they want out of the program or the initiative.
Hello and welcome to the NepoXchange Podcast. Today we are joined by Celiwe Mabaso, who is the head of sustainability at Nepoworx Group. She's passionate about ensuring that renewable energy doesn't just power homes, but it also empowers the communities and the people that live within those communities. From ESG strategies to long-term impact programs, Celiwe's work is about shaping and ensuring that there's an inclusive but more sustainable future. Welcome, Celiwe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Today we're going to obviously have a conversation with you, and we'd obviously like to just get more insights in terms of the work that you do, especially within communities and around the people that you obviously deal with on a day-to-day. But before we do that, we obviously want to get to know the person behind this great work that you do. And we're going to obviously start it quite fresh if you've obviously seen some of our previous episodes. So what we do is that we do a few icebreaker games. And the first one that we're going to do is called This or That.
Okay.
So I'll give you two options and then you must choose one.
Okay.
I'm going to go a bit off script. The first one that I want to ask is, do you prefer Joburg or Cape Town?
I think it depends on the time of the year.
Okay.
In summer, and I'm craving a Caesar salad, definitely Cape Town.
Okay.
Because Cove Collection restaurants are my current obsession, and they make the best Caesar salad.
Okay.
And they're ocean facing. So Cape Town in the summer.
Beautiful.
But Joburg for the vibe. Always.
Okay, beautiful. I love that there's something for each season for you. That's lovely. Okay, and then the next one is, do you prefer early mornings or late nights?
Late nights.
Okay.
I'm a little bit grumpy in the morning.
You come alive later on.
I do come alive a bit later on.
Okay, perfect. And then tea or coffee?
Sure. Honestly, I think coffee. Because I'm also always catching that horrible 6 a.m. flight anyway. So I do need coffee to keep me awake.
Your caffeine, yeah. All right, perfect. And then do you prefer reading or networking? Because you do a lot of networking events. So do you prefer late chilled back day at home reading or networking?
That's a tricky one. I love reading.
Okay.
I just love reading. But networking is a critical skill.
Absolutely.
For the job. But I do love reading.
Absolutely. Okay, you do a lot of work within community. So this last one is just around, do you prefer mentoring or doing more peer-to-peer work?
I prefer think tanks.
Okay.
I prefer think tanks. It's a concept I learned a few years ago, where it's a group of like-minded people.
I love it, yeah.
Who share similar concepts, and you get to challenge each other. So more think tanks than anything.
Beautiful. So it's more around peer-to-peer. Yeah, that's beautiful. And then the next game that we're going to play is called Two Truths and a Lie. So you're going to give me two truths about you and then one lie. I must guess which one is the lie out of those three facts. Okay. So you can take it away.
True truth and a lie.
Yes.
I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
I'm 167.
Okay.
And I love running.
Okay. Oh my God, this is so tricky. I'm gonna say you love running is a lie.
Definitely.
That was just a wild guess. Sorry,
Exactly.
that was just a wild guess. And then, just as we obviously end off this segment, what would you say is your some like things, or maybe two things, one or two things that are on your ticket list that you're like, these I have to do before you either retire or before you obviously depart from the earth? Like, what is it that you are like, this I need to do?
Wow. Things I really have to do before I depart from the earth. One of them is really random, but it's just something I've always wanted to do.
Okay.
And it's to own cows. It's just a random thing, but anybody who's spoken to me has heard me say this so many times.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to have cows. And then, yeah, I think that's the one thing that's just really pressing in my heart at this point in time.
Okay.
And then the other thing I think I'm doing in my work, which is to continue to change lives. I think that's the one thing I want to continue to do.
Okay, beautiful. And you've really been doing an amazing work already. So we are excited to see your journey and see you do that great work as well. So we're just going to get more into that actually in terms of your work and what you do. But I just want us to obviously start from the beginning. Just obviously take us through your journey and how you got into what you do now. I know that you obviously had to kind of pivot before from what you used to do to now obviously get into sustainability. So I think just give our viewers, especially the young people who are probably wanting to get into the space, to just obviously hear more about your journey and where you started.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess let's start from the beginning. I think the one thing we don't do is share the rawness of our career journeys. So my undergraduate is a commercial undergrad. So I did a BCom marketing.
Okay.
All those years ago.
Yeah.
I graduated with a BCom marketing management, and my dream at the time was to work in advertising. So I thought I'd work in advertising.
Right.
But life wasn't rosy at the time, and my first job was in operations, which is fancy for administrative assistant to the security company at the university that I worked for. So I was basically the lady who sits with the security guards at the gate where I used to study. So that's important. I think I just want young people to know that sometimes you start rock bottom.
From the bottom.
Yeah. I then worked at Nissan South Africa as a marketing assistant for a bit, and then, was fortunate enough to join an American organization called General Electric on a program called ECDP at the time, Early Career Development Program, which was a program designed for the advancement of young African graduates. And I was fortunate to join the risk and compliance team, supporting the general counsel and chief compliance officer. And that's when the compliance and risk bug bit me. And through risk and compliance, I was introduced to CSI and BEE. So that's when I discovered, my love for transformation and CSI. And fast forward from there, I started my first role as CSI manager for General Electric South Africa in 2016. In 2019, I then got an opportunity to transition into renewable energy, and I joined what was then called Umoya Energy, which is now called EAMS Africa, as community operations manager. And that was my transition into a community development or social performance role as community operations manager in renewable energy, and that's when my journey with holistic community development truly started. And that's been my journey
Here
ever
we are
since.
now.
And here we are now. So
beautiful.
That's been my journey, and I've moved ever since from stride to stride. But I think in between all of that, my career growth and development has been supported by networking, truly networking within the industry, industry association support. So a lot of support from the likes of SEPVIA and SAWIA, largely SAWIA, with opportunities like being given the chance to chair what was then called the ED working group.
Okay.
And now I currently chair the Standing Committee on Social Impact. So really having oversight on what the view from the industry is from a social impact perspective. So getting the chance to engage at a government and sector level on social impact. So broadening your horizon, not only from a community development point of view, but forcing me to really think from a sustainability and ESG perspective on where renewables is going, from a sustainability perspective. So it really makes you think broader than, what you know.
Absolutely.
And then outside of industry, looking, organizations like the BMF. So I was also fortunate to be a member of the BMF and being part of a program that was called Young Professionals Development Program at the time. And those programs really helped me with things like personal mastery, building my own network, dealing with inner self, also building networks beyond my own friends, because those are the things that you need as well. So those were the things that really helped me advance and understand where I wanted to go in my career and navigate as well.
Yeah, no, that is so lovely. I really love that. I think there's a lot, obviously, that you just shared that I think we should unpack. And some of my key takeouts that I really love from that is that you speak about the importance of networking and not just focusing on your day-to-day work, because I think one can only grow when they do connect with other people, either maybe people who are like-minded or who are obviously more advanced within that space, that kind of assist them in terms of growing. So I really like that. I think that's such a great key takeaway that our viewers should take as something so important. Find events, find industries and organizations that you can obviously connect with that will assist you in terms of your growth. So my next question then speaks to how you obviously got to pivot from, I think, more marketing to then getting into the CSI space. What was the thing that really motivated you as you started learning about the space, and especially with community work, that said, you know what, this is something that I want to do, and you kind of like took it from there?
Yeah. So it was largely looking at the money. In all honesty,
we're being very clear. I think
so looking at the money,
so
understanding that there was a budget from the South African government that was available to the community, to South Africans, to uplift my community, I think was very fascinating for me. And the opportunity to direct that budget was exciting. That's one aspect of it. The second part for it was understanding the opportunities that I felt I didn't have growing up, and having the opportunity to give those to somebody else.
Absolutely.
So even as I design programs, I look at the things that I struggled with, or I look at the things that my children struggle with, and I pay for, as an example, or things that I pay for my children. And I think of another mother who cannot afford those interventions, and I try and implement those things in schools for those mothers who can't afford them, because I see how they've helped my children, as an example. So it's the opportunity to do those things for other people who wouldn't necessarily have them, because the government has made a mechanism for those things that really made me want to get into the space.
Absolutely. You just touched on something that is quite so personal to me, because I think for me it's the same thing, that when I left high school, I thought to myself, there are so many opportunities. I did fairly okay and fairly great, but I was like, so many things that had I had 1, 2, 3, 4, I would have excelled even much better. And I thought to myself, we have to do better, obviously, for people back from where we come from, or from different communities where we're like, they actually need more help in terms of that. So I really like that, and I hope it's something I wish that each one of us can also have, that to say, you know what, even if I didn't have this much better, I can also then do this. And another thing that I think I like that you just mentioned is about directing funds properly, because that's also another thing, that sometimes the funds are there but they're not directed in a correct manner. So I think I really love that, and yeah, it's something that I do commend you on, because I know that you've really been doing quite great work as well. So you've worked with different communities, from the likes of your Northwest, Eastern Cape, different provinces. What really keeps you going or inspiring this work?
Seeing mindset shift in communities, seeing communities take ownership.
Absolutely.
When you come into a community, more often than not, you find a very frustrated and disgruntled communities, because they've either been failed by the system or a previous donor. But I think the models that we've used over the years, in particular myself, is a model where I co-create a program with the community, and the program belongs to the community.
And they run with it.
And they run with it, and they co-design it, and they determine what they want out of the program or the initiative. And with time, you gradually exit and you let them run it by themselves. And there's so many communities where I've left for years, and people will still call, hey, Sister Celiwe, yeah, the singings are in, but it's just really beautiful. Seeing people continue to take ownership of their own lives and starting other things based on that one little seed that you've planted in their lives at that moment in time. So, and it's a catalyst for change. It's really starting that fire and seeing how people's lives continue to change.
They continue to light it up.
Yeah.
That is beautiful, and it's really inspiring work. I think we speak a lot about community work and what you do, but maybe perhaps we should also just dial it back and break it down, so that the viewers at home who don't see what that looks like, kind of like hear what you do in terms of like community work. What is it that we touched a bit on schools? You spoke about what you do in terms of schools, but what is it that I think you do, or some of the projects that you've done that you're really proud of, and like what did that look like? Is it going into communities, obviously assisting in terms of enterprise development, perhaps helping schools in terms of growing learners? What does it really look like?
Yeah, so there's no one size fits all. I think even for the aspiring social performance or community development practitioner, there's no one size fits all. There is a very common model in the space. Many ways to call it. Some call it cradle to grave. I think in one of the IPPs they call it the lifetime of learning. There's many ways to call it, but in that model, what you do as a practitioner is you come into a community and you assess person X. So you say, what does Celiwe need to thrive? And you look at Celiwe from pre-birth, so from before they were born, all the way to when they are employed and by themselves or sustaining themselves. And you look at what are the things that they need to become a successful person within that community. So let's look at this area. So we said in Riverside, what do I need to succeed? Are all those things in place, Is there nutrition for the mother? Is there housing? Is there infrastructure? Is there schooling at ECD level, at primary school level, at adolescent level, etc., etc.? And you map those things out as a practitioner, and you map out the gaps, right? And then where you identify the gaps, so what you're trying to identify as a practitioner is where is it lacking? Where are the shortfalls that would affect Ukokezo? What would make Kokezo not become a successful adult in X amount of years? And you plug the gaps. You plug those gaps where you can, either by yourself, if you are a mind with millions and millions, or with other partners to make sure that, in Riverside, we've put in place, together with government and private partners, all the interventions and programs so that impilo ka koketso makes sense, or all the interventions, there's enough sufficient support to make sure that they come out in the end. So in one area, we might then have a nutritional program, because we find that in Riverside, we've got good ECD programs, but we've got poor nutrition for mothers because so we do an educational program for mothers and a nutritional program in the clinics so that they eat right and they don't drink while they're pregnant. And then we do a primary school intervention to help learners read, because we want them to read well. Then we find that between primary school and high school, they're okay, but then between grade 10 and 12, they are struggling to get into university, so we do an intervention there so that we've got enough pipeline to get them into university, and we can give them bursaries, so we give them bursaries. Then we find that some are going into university, but then we've got this batch that's just not interested in bursaries. Then we might do an entrepreneurship program. So we might set up something like a Riverside incubation model to do ED programs. So it really depends on what the community looks like. That's why it's important to do a needs analysis. So each area I've worked in is very unique. In the Northwest, I found that there was quite a big drive for entrepreneurship, so very entrepreneurship
I've seen
heavy.
that actually.
In the Northern Cape, it was very education and nutrition heavy. In the Eastern Cape, it is a combination rather of education support and entrepreneurship. So it really depends on the area that you're working in and the community itself.
I love that you actually say it's not a one size fits all. And we just spoke now about helping some of these people, especially when they get to the working level, like you're saying, or maybe perhaps maybe they're a business owner. And I think I'm going to ask this question in double barrels. So how you spoke about also like people that call you because now they've sustained themselves, right? Or they have businesses and projects that sustain themselves. So how do you kind of approach that in the manner that where you're like, okay, you're here, this is where you are now in terms of your steps. Now go and obviously do this on your own and obviously take ownership, one. And then the second question, I think in the sense, you can also add examples. Maybe it's not even a question, just add examples of maybe one or two people or projects that really, really stood out for you, that you were like, you remember and they really touched your heart and kind of like stand out for you. I'm putting you on the spot because there's probably a lot. Yeah. Sorry.
It's quite tricky, right, Koketso, because so enterprise development is tricky because so enterprise development in its nature is tricky because in itself it's exclusionary, right? Let's call a spade a spade.
Absolutely.
It's not social inclusion and it's not social facilitation. Not everybody is going to get a piece of the pie because not everybody is an entrepreneur. It wasn't the intent of enterprise development for everybody to be an entrepreneur. And this is what people don't understand about it. It's a very unpopular opinion. So that's part one. What many people who've been on an enterprise development program that has been run by myself know is that enterprise development programs run by myself, we never take a big cohort. It's a very small cohort and you get eliminated. There's elimination rounds. So we might start with 10 and after round 1, we are puma because there's certain steps that you must go through. And if you can't get past a point, then we will eliminate you because the mistake of many development practitioners that we've made is that because there's so much pressure to spend that money, we get an influx of applications and people with registered businesses that we find ourselves with entrepreneurs or survivalist businesses, so people who are unemployed, who registered businesses out of desperation or need, who are actually just employees trying to make ends meet. But it's so hard to change the mindset of an employee into an entrepreneur, right? That person just wants an income. So that person won't stick it out. It takes at least 3 to 4 years for a startup to become a breaking even business.
Organization,
And then from a breaking even business to a earning small profit business, another 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So can you imagine, you're asking this person to just make a cent for 8 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot to ask
tricky.
from somebody who doesn't really want to do what they're doing. So that's a hard question. But back to your original question, are there any examples? Yes, there's one particular lady who does alien vegetation clearing in Saldanha Bay. I think a couple of wind farms have supported her. She was on an enterprise development program. I found her on a program with the organization that I was working with already, and I continued with her. So we supported her as a wind farm for 5 years, just to give a sense of how long it takes to transition someone into a self-sustaining. She was already operational, but it takes that long to support her with, CapEx, OpEx, equipment, training, compliance documents, risk financing. 5 complete years of supporting her before she could start getting contracts from other businesses. And that also meant that when she got a contract from the next wind farm, we would purchase order finance her. So we would finance the purchase order from the other wind farm to make sure that she could service that contract. So that until she got to a point where she could service the contract herself. But she's doing so well now that she's such a good example to share.
That's great. I think you kind of just gave me a few learnings, and I also just thought about, so we do obviously at Nepoworx also do enterprise development, and there are a few entrepreneurs that we've been working with, and we also do obviously have a network of other alumni, and we see that it's a constant thing in terms of growth. It's not just a once-off where you only train them for 3 months and you leave them, which is obviously we did the training, but we are constantly every single month kind of finding ways to obviously ensure that they do better in terms of their business, and what you just spoke about now, from finance in terms of marketing their business, but also just ensuring that they're actually active in terms of keeping their businesses growing. So I think that's quite a great lesson, I think, for most people as well in organizations, that it doesn't just stop after the training, or you don't just get people, and then, as you say, that it also sometimes it's not everybody that is an entrepreneur, because even within those different groups you can see that, okay, these ones are thriving much better than these ones, and then so how do I help the others either maybe pivot or then continue in terms of their entrepreneurship journey?
So I've got a model, it might not be unique, but I've got a model that I use in my program, and I always sieve the entrepreneurs into groups of 3. So I always sieve them into early startup, and then early startup or startup. So it's really truly ideation. You've just started the business, you're fresh off the block, and it's an idea or a thought, and you haven't truly been operational. So we treat you as such, and you are really just going to go through business 101. So those are the guys I really put into full-on classroom training, business 101. Those guys will go attend class until we know for sure if this person really wants to go into business. And then there's the, you've really started your business and emerging, let's call it. You've started your business, you've operated for a year and a bit, or you've informally traded, and you now want to test if you want to commercialize or not. And those guys will do a bit of formalization. So we'll test if you want to formalize. Do you want to formalize your business or not? Or do you want to remain survivalist? And we'll do a little bit of training. So we'll do a bit of training, so a little bit of education and testing with those guys. So a combination of training and mentoring with those guys. So a little bit of classroom and a little bit of coaching, but we won't put a lot of pressure on those guys in that sense. And then there's that nice group, that group I really enjoy. Those are the accelerator guys, like 5 or 6 guys, one-on-one coaching guys. Those are the guys who we make funding ready guys. Those are those QSE, EME guys. Those guys are operating 5 to 6 years. You're sure about your model. We're testing feasibility. We're testing for compliance. You know what your business is. What we're doing is cleanup and other stuff. So that's how I normally split. I serve my applications like that so that we know exactly what we're dealing with. Because the biggest mistake I made in the beginning when I started in the space, I used to lump everybody into one bucket. And what you'd find is that in the group you'd frustrate the stronger ones because you're putting everybody in the same class.
Because they're way ahead also.
Because the others are way ahead. And you're teaching them the same thing. And Laba, they're like, wow, Brandy.
Oh, it happens.
And then these guys have been doing this for 7 years. He knows how to get contracts. He just wants to know, will I get funding? Where do I get funding? How do I get purchase order financing? How do I clean up my business? What are the next steps for me? So it's just breaking them down for myself like that has really helped me make sense of
I do love that model, and I think it's what everybody should adopt because, as you say, it really needs a more tailored approach. So I really, really love that, and I do hope that also entrepreneurs that are starting out, or if you have hopes of becoming an entrepreneur, you kind of do take this to say, this is where I stand. You also, I think, self-evaluate to just say, this is where me and my business sit, and this is where we obviously need assistance on, and that's quite great. We spoke earlier, you spoke about obviously transitioning into the renewable energy space. How would you define, I think, just transition when it obviously, how does it look like, especially for young people within the renewable energy space, and especially in the rural areas or the communities that you go to? What does just transition look like?
Sure. I think it's in an African context, right? The just transition is people-centric. It's a people-first conversation. And it means we need to be innovative about how we think about skills and skills of the future. It also means young people need to change their mindsets and views about how they feel about artisanal jobs. So a lot of the jobs of the future are artisanal. That's where the work is, the artisanal work. And we've got an influx, or let's call it an oversupply. That's my view. Please don't call me.
We will coach you. We will coach
there's you. But I do think that we might have an oversupply of the white collar, is that the right term? But university graduates, and we don't have sufficient supply of artisanal workers or workers or graduates at this point in time, and that's where we need them the most. That's one. We also have tech work and digital work. That is the work of the future. And we've got an opportunity. There's so much you can do with digitization beyond making TikToks.
No shade.
No shade. But when we look at what the Chinese are doing with TikTok, I think we've got an opportunity to do more.
More education
with those tools than what we are doing right now. I think Africa's got so much more to offer.
Absolutely.
Than what we are putting out to the world.
Absolutely. I really, really love that. And I really do agree that white collar is very oversaturated at this point. But I hope that for young people, they do obviously find the gaps in terms of what skills are needed, especially, as you say, skills for the future, and they kind of find their place in there as well. And for businesses then, how do they balance making a profit and obviously, and I know that there really isn't really a balance, but obviously still also making meaningful social impact or investment?
I think Listen, I think that you're always making a meaningful social impact as a business. Businesses who employ local people are making a social impact.
Great start,
That's a great start in itself. A lot of entrepreneurs need to tap themselves on the shoulder. I think many entrepreneurs don't consider that fact. If you are a local business and you are employing more than 2 people from your local community, clap your hands for yourself.
Absolutely.
You are creating jobs, and I think it's time we highlight that. Because we are looking at the government and private sector to create jobs, but the reality is the jobs for South Africa are coming from informal sector and entrepreneurs. That's where jobs are coming from. So, that's where social impact comes from. So if you can create jobs through your business, definitely. That's where social impact will start.
Beautiful. I really love that. And what advice would you give to then the young people or anybody who's wanting to get into the type of work that you do, being social impact and sustainability?
Go and study community development, guys. It's not it's not a frowned upon qualification. I think there were qualifications that were frowned upon before that were called irrelevant, or people scared us about them because we didn't see a place for them. Those qualifications are not so irrelevant before. In fact, they've become quite niche. Environmental studies, community development, social studies, anthropology. Do it. Go and study those qualifications. Those studies have become so niche to the space that we are in now, that you will find yourself becoming a commodity in the space. So do your research. I say young people must do their research and study not what they think will make them money, but what they believe they will be an expert in, because what makes you money is what you can specialize in.
I think what I love, as I'm looking at you and as I'm listening to you, is that the great thing about also doing research, listening to this podcast as part of doing your research, and finding the likes of Celiwe and what she's saying now. And I think it's also quite very important as well to do your research, find your space, but also having people like you who are obviously representation is also quite great. Finding people who are much more like Celiwe in terms of the work that she does, and kind of looking at what they do in terms of their work and seeing that, okay, when I'm done with this qualification, this is where I will be and this is what it would look like. So that's quite great. And another thing that I wanted to ask you is, in terms of some of your learnings, what have you learned in your role, especially in terms of leadership and resilience within the space? What have those taught you? or what lessons have you learned? Sorry, let me just rephrase my question. What lessons have you learned?
Slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race.
Okay.
One in development, from a development point of view, any program, to see results in any program, takes a minimum of 2 years, right? Just from a development point of view. It's the same with your career. So we've got so much pressure on ourselves to advance and grow that we put pressure on ourselves to grow as well, in that sense. So slow and steady wins the race. Don't put too much pressure on yourself in that sense.
Yeah, beautiful. And then do you have any last words? Besides, I do have one last line, but I just want to, is there anything else that you feel like you need young people and our viewers to learn and know?
Young people must read. I think, listening to the opinions and views of others from podcasts and videos and everything else that we consume is great. But read.
Absolutely.
Read and compare opinions from different sources and make your own analysis. But the one skill that we are not seeing in young people anymore is the ability to analyze data. And that is a critical skill in the workplace. So compare data sources and analyze.
And form your own understanding or opinion.
Conclusions, and not take my word as the truth.
Okay. I just want you to then finish the sentence. I believe communities thrive when they...
I believe communities thrive when they own the process.
Okay. Beautiful. So when they have their own ownership and they own the process. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us. I wish we had more time and spend the whole day just talking.
Me too. Don't hire me.
Thank you. We have a small gift for you as well. Just thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate that so much.
I love gifts.
Thank you. And to our viewers at home, I hope that you really got quite a lot of nuggets from this episode. I myself personally really learnt a lot, and there's a lot that I'm going to practice. I actually wish I could still even spend more time with her. But yeah, I really do hope you took some of the advice that she gave. Do read, do find people, find obviously spaces and networks, but also ensure that you invest in your own growth. And yeah, so thank you for joining us, and have a good one. Until the next episode, thank you. Do follow us on Nepoworx on all our social media platforms. You can find Celiwe Mabaso on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, goodbye. Thank you.